Call the meeting to order. The April meeting of the Suffolk County Council on Environmental Quality. Just a reminder, this is a public meeting. If there is an item on the agenda that you would like to address, please wait till that item is on the agenda, and you're more than welcome to talk. First thing, has anybody had a chance to read the March minutes?
Yes. They're quite satisfactory as they are.
I have a correction.
Sure.
I'm pushing for it, but it's the spelling of NYSAC and NYSEM. NYSAC is N-Y-S-A-C-C, and the other one is N-Y-S-A-M-A-E-M-C. Association of Environmental Management Councils.
M-O-U-S-E.
Okay, thank you, Joy. Is there a motion then?
Yeah, motion looks good.
Second?
Aye.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Second. All righty. Historic trust docket. Rich, do you have anything?
Yes. Basically, with the housing program, it's the status quo. The buildings are all occupied, that are able to be occupied right now. And the contracts, we're still working on the contract with the Maritime Museum. That's not finalized yet. But today, I'd like to just kind of bring people up to date on where we are with the pilot restoration program. And this was the resolution that the CQ did review and that Legislator Horsley had put forward. And we've been getting a lot of interest, I guess, from the Newsday article. I don't know if everyone got to see this, came out Tuesday, April 3rd, and that gave a lot of play to the idea. So both the Commissioner's office and my office and Legislator Horsley's office has gotten numerous calls of people that are interested, and that's kind of gotten the Parks Department to move on it. And so the Contracts Division will be working on two, what we're calling requests for expressions of interest. And the Parks Commissioner Greg Dawson wanted to start with that first before we did a formal RFP. That was in the resolution that the parks could do either or as they saw fit. He would like to get the ideas and the interest to the department so we can understand how the RFP should be drafted. And so the Parks Commissioner has decided, because of the interest, that we would go forward with two to start with, the Elwood Schoolhouse and Black Duck Lodge in Flanders. So those are being worked on, and because of the time it takes to get this paperwork done and get it reviewed by the County Attorney's Office, we're probably looking about 6 months out before that's ready to be distributed.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Gloria?
Yes.
Question for Rich. Rich, I've been inside the Little Red Schoolhouse. It's on my way to work. And I saw your picture in there. And it looks like it was in pretty bad shape from that picture. When I was there, it was still occupied, I believe, by the Art League. Has it deteriorated that much?
Yes, to answer your question. And actually, this picture is about 6 to 8 months old when this was taken. This article had been worked on for a while. And we have since had a complete cleanup of the interior in anticipation that we would be showing people to get their interest. So the whole inside has been cleaned up because it's clean, looks better, but it is still, in disrepair.
It had a flood.
Yeah, I remember that. The boiler broke.
And so it was completely wrecked. Nobody knew the water was pouring into it.
Well, it was the sprinkler system.
Yes, and it was in the middle of winter.
Right.
Are you targeting any specific businesses? Like, for instance, schools or things like that?
It'll be publicly advertised, and I'm not sure how the advertisements will be done, but I think anyone that's called, we're taking a mailing list of people that are interested, and I think I'll ask that question of how the parks will be sending this out, but it will definitely be advertised. So, all groups are welcome to respond, and that's why we're doing this expression of interest to see what kinds of groups and businesses might have a strong interest. And then we could maybe tailor the RFP a bit to their needs.
In your specifications, do you have sort of a minimal list of expectations, like you might have to replace the roof or replace the boiler, or is there a list of things like that?
Yes. And we'll be working with Public Works. We'll do a review of the buildings. This will have to be in conjunction with their office on all those construction needs and to bring the building up to code for public use. And then any historic items that we want to specify need to be restored as part of this and need to be preserved. And that would all be in the contract. And then there'd be thresholds of how much, initially we'd require as an investment, and then we'd have to work out, in a sense, a lease on how long that would give them for the use of the building, because every building will be separate. So depending on their investment.
When you complete this, refresh my memory, there is no public access, or some portion has to remain public?
We're trying to always accommodate some public access. Even in the residences that, let's say, an historic tour could be given during the course of the year, something like that. And in the Elwood Schoolhouse and Black Duck Lodge, we think we can accommodate regular, almost daily public access at those sites.
Any other concerns? Thank you. All righty, moving on. Recommended type 2 actions. Michael, is there anything that we need to be made aware of in here?
No, it's pretty pro forma stuff. I do just want to point out IR 1316, authorizing license agreement with Long Island Maritime Museum for the park in West Sayville. Mm-hmm. That's coming up before the ledge, but besides that, nothing out of the ordinary.
Mike, do you know what the status of the bill that was put by Kara last month on not allowing fracking fluids in sewage treatment plants?
I think it's still out for public hearing.
Okay.
But I'm not sure where it is support-wise.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Seconded by Eva. All in favor? Motion passed. Okay, recommended unlisted actions. Proposed acquisition for open space preservation purposes known as Beaver Dam Creek County Wetlands Addition, the Madlands, and the Estate of Entenmann Property, Town of Brookhaven. Good morning, Loretta. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Before you this morning, a proposed acquisition in the Beaver Dam Creek watershed area, the town of Brookhaven, and it is 8.3 acres in size. It is part of and adjacent to other significant holdings that the county has been acquiring over the last decade or so at the headwaters of Beaver Dam Creek. Just north of Montauk Highway, south of Sunrise Highway. This property went through phase 2 analysis. Everything was determined to be okay on the property with regard to former structures on the site, and removal of underground tanks and storage facilities. There is one groundwater well located on the site, and to be determined if the county no longer needs the use of that well, then it should be closed and with proper requirements by the health department. So. Any questions?
Loretta, just quickly on the color photo. The town of Brookhaven has a darker green for properties owned, and Suffolk County has a lighter green. I'm assuming, it's a little hard for me to see, but it looks like all the little tiny lots are Suffolk County, but the bigger ones to the north are the town of Brookhaven? So all of these are county?
Well, most of them. There are pieces of property that are owned by the town. within this area south of Sunrise, but the area north of Sunrise is the landfill, town landfill, and that is all owned by the town in that area.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But it is hard to
Yeah.
distinguish between the dark and the light, but the majority of the property south of Sunrise is actually owned by the town.
And Gloria, if
Yes.
you look to the left, those orange parcels are acquisitions in progress.
Yes, I see that.
It's a pretty large thing.
Larry?
What was the property used for? Because in the photo, it's pretty scarred up.
There was former uses on the site and buildings. It's been vacant for a while, so I can't say for sure, but I believe there were commercial buildings on the site. This is along Montauk Highway, and there is a commercial building to the east that exists today.
But
So,
they've been torn down,
yeah, they've been taken down.
so that's why it looks like it's
Yes, yeah.
been
It's an
scraped
open.
off.
Yeah.
Eva?
And do we know what kind of commercial building? That there was
No, it was quite a while ago. I don't think, they were minor buildings. I don't think it was a major facility in any regard, but I can't tell you for sure. It was quite a while ago.
and there was no resulting,
As I said,
Yeah.
phase 2 was completed.
Yeah,
okay,
And they did look at locations where former structures were. They did GPR,
Okay.
ground truthing, and they found no underground structures, or there were also soil mounds that were analyzed, and there was no indication of any soil issues
Mike?
on the site.
Looking back in history, was this an area that was used for agricultural pursuits, greenhouses and things like that? There's water supplies, it's near a creek, things like that. I think there's greenhouses on there right now. Was this an area that was heavily used for agricultural pursuits at all, to your knowledge?
No, not to my knowledge, not within this area. There were some scattered commercial uses. Actually, there's been some auto repair and that type of use along this strip area, but nothing of any major greenhouse use that I'm aware of recent date.
Right, one other question. On the EAF, it says there's a cemetery in the area.
It's just north of there,
Okay,
just north of the
That's
site.
that opened area.
That
Yeah.
open area, that long, narrow strip
With the white...
with the white, that's the cemetery. And we're acquiring or have acquired everything surrounding that cemetery at this point. We're not looking to acquire the cemetery.
Is the cemetery still being utilized?
Yes. Actually, I was there last year, and it's still in, good shape. People are utilizing it. There's access to the property, and it's maintained.
Any other concerns?
Motion, unlisted negative deck.
Is there a second? Second by Eva. All in favor? Motion passed. Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question for, there was an article in the newspaper not too long ago, a few days ago, that the Water Authority is looking to sell about 50 pieces of property, holding for years, and nothing there. Are we looking at any of those to perhaps acquire, because they might be somehow connected with existing county-owned property?
We haven't gotten a list from the Water Authority with regard to those properties that they're proposing to sell. I do believe that a certain amount of them are commercial, with buildings, but
understand
there
that.
are others
Yeah.
that may be of interest to us, and it was something we can look into, and we can touch base with Water Authority and get that list.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I saw the same article that Rich did.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what properties are on their list or anything like that. But I know they've got expensive properties like Pine Barrens and a number of other locations. In terms of ownership, Okay, they're a separate municipal agency, subject to the county legislature in certain ways. So, in terms of ownership, let's say the county planning department or farm bureau or something like that wanted to, or parks wanted to access some of those parcels or keep some of those parcels. Well, one, as Rich is saying, has there been any coordination done on any of this? Has county water run this by anybody?
Not to my
Right,
knowledge.
so it's a unilateral action. Two, given the fact that even though Water Authority is a separate municipal agency, I don't know how the ownership status works. If county funds have been expended to buy that in the past, there may be an issue with selling some of those properties. I mean, you'd almost have to go back in time to see how those things occurred and whether it's legitimate to sell. Now, I can see the stuff along the roads, okay? I can see the commercial properties. I'm talking about anything else that's major. Again, we don't know.
I would like to review it, and look at what in fact they're proposing to sell, and then we could look further into the ownership issue. As far as my understanding is, the Water Authority properties are bought with Water Authority funds, not with Suffolk County funds.
It'll still make for an interesting discussion.
Yes.
You have to look back at history.
Buy from,
So it's within their, jurisdiction, not within the county of Suffolk's jurisdiction.
Normally that's true, but remember, you go back in past history, and before the Water Authority was created, okay, some of those lands may have been owned by the county, and there may have just been transfers back and forth.
That could be.
Okay, that's why I'm curious about that. What it boils down to is I don't like to necessarily see land that has been dearly bought.
Nor I.
Passed out. Yeah, you and I have
Well,
an
no.
institutional prejudice that way.
Sarah, can you look into that
Yes, we'll
issue,
look into
please?
that.
Thank you.
well, especially the ownership, if it goes back far enough and it was kind of, they shouldn't be able to sell something the
Well,
county bought.
One particular sale of properties within Pine Barrens Corps for, that we sold for their use as a purveyor under the Old Drinking Water Protection Program were to be of high significance to us because, in fact, even though we may have sold that portion of that property to them for the water rights, we still have, we still initially bought that under Old Drinking Water for watershed protection, and groundwater protection. So if any of those do show up, we will key those and look into them further.
It basically can be a firestorm if it's not handled properly and if it goes wrong. Again, I'm not talking about the stuff along main arterials
Right.
or anything like that, but given the acquisition efforts that the county has undertaken in the past, for example, in the Pine Barrens and other places, for Water Authority to unilaterally, if you will, sell, and even though Carrie Gallagher is the chief environmental official over there, we don't know exactly what's going on. This can promote a firestorm if no one's careful. Again,
agree.
they're an independent agency, but they are subject in certain ways to the county. Let's avoid a problem.
No problem.
Loretta, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Oh, Joy, sorry.
Since we're on land use, could I ask Sarah if things since Kara's legislation failed, are things proceeding?
Tabled.
Tabled.
Didn't fail.
I'm sorry, tabled. I'm sorry to say the wrong thing.
It is dead.
Are things proceeding as usual with emphasis on agricultural acquisitions?
The planning department met its requirements and submitted the annual preservation priority list to the executive branch to review, and it's proceeding through the proper departments to look at that. So it's making progress, so yes.
And we're talking about land. I just wanted to comment, there was a small...
The bill that you had drafted for not accepting any wastewater from the hydrocarbon
Yes.
and the status of that?
It's not.
Oh, it did pass.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is that your first?
Wonderful.
Oh, no.
We said that earlier.
Well, you-
You've been working hard on this, good.
I'm trying to think of how many have passed so far, at least 2, maybe 3. I could get you a list, but
Yours?
thank you. I think I have 9 or 10 that are, on the table, and a number pass already, but that was a big one. And that came out of here, thank you.
Yes, Larry, that was your
That
efforts,
was
thank you.
Really.
Do you know if the Nassau County, they also introduced a bill that I
They were following it. I don't believe it's passed yet.
They're probably in favor of it.
They're selling your plants.
Yeah, why not?
Isn't that awful?
If they sell their plants, private operator,
I
maybe
know,
they
they
can
can
do
do,
it.
yeah, they can do what they want. Yeah. All right, but thank you, Larry. Okay, moving on.
I'm already losing track.
Okay, the proposed Annexco solar carport relocation site, it's a project amendment, and who's speaking for us, Sarah?
Well, we are here to answer any questions. I'd like to introduce staff from the Department of Economic Development and Planning. We have Lisa Broughton and Peter Scully.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? First off, if you could just give us a quick description of where the new site will be that you're going to use instead of the Ronkonkoma train station parking lot, is that correct?
It's the Grant campus of the Suffolk County Community College in Brentwood.
Okay. And will it be exactly the same size as the number of panels, et cetera, as the Ronkonkoma one would have had?
No, it'll be slightly smaller.
Okay.
About a megawatt smaller.
Okay. Tom?
Thank you. I'm not sure how to address this consideration, but I'll just raise it and maybe get some advice from somebody. Is there anything that we can do? This is a large project, a lot of material being purchased, is phenomenal in its scale. I don't understand whether the purchase can include, or maybe it does already include, provision for the other end of the life cycle, the sort of the take back by the manufacturers of the material. Is that in there now?
Yes, it does include that. The panels themselves are rated for about 20 to 30
25,
years.
yeah.
And our agreement with the company is when their deal ends with LIPA in 20 years, that we can, if they're in good working order, and they may upgrade them and through the process, but whatever is left at the end of the 20 years, the county can then proceed for another 10 and keep it, or we can have them dismantle, and then they'd be subject to the EPA rules for recycling and disposing properly of all that material. I know many of the components are being recycled now,
Right.
at, a very good profit.
So we don't have to ask them to pick configurations that are more recyclable or not. They have the incentive to,
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
the obligation to take it back, so they'll take care of it themselves.
Yeah.
And is that commitment sustainable, such that if the companies come and go, which some of them have been, like yesterday, will it transfer forward to whoever else
Yeah.
takes it on? Great.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
the lease.
Eva?
And if they have to, if there's some damage or something that happens to any of the units, they are obligated then to replace them, and will they be replacing them with the same unit, or it'll be like the next state-of-the-art unit?
I couldn't speak for that, but they are highly motivated to be creating energy all the time. That's how they get to pull down the money from LIPA, so they will be, and it's also written in the lease as far as the aesthetic, keeping them up to date, and if there are any, nicks or damages in the steel, they must keep those in good working order and aesthetically pristine.
And
That's part of
is
it.
there some, who is doing the review of that? Who is responsible?
Our facilities manager and the DPW.
Larry?
I think last month we asked the question about making the environmental review a little more inclusive. There's no mention of how these solar panels are being manufactured, where they're being manufactured, if the health and well-being of people, if it's doing in China, is meeting standards that we should be accepting in the United States, or is the environmental, is the environmental benefit all on one side, and that is the extraction of the energy over here?
Well, in the introduction to the supplemental environmental review, it should indicate that the panels are manufactured by Suffolk in China. As to the working environment over there and specific requirements of production, I don't have information about that.
And I don't know if this goes toward your concern, which I recognize as global concern, but the panels were purchased in 2010. There are no new panels for the action that you're taking today. They're the same ones that we were going to use at Brookhaven, at Ronkonkoma, excuse me. One of the things that the project was meant to demonstrate is energy independence for our region, and we're part of the New York State RSP, and I believe nationally and globally, this project has been groundbreaking. This is the largest distributed energy project in North America, showing that power can be generated in sites that are not power plants, and that the power can go to the grid and be used by all of us on Long Island, every LIPA customer now. We've built out 4 sites. They're active, they're energized, is the word that the company uses, and we are making that part of it true, the part that you referenced as the one side. So I believe that that goes toward the greater global concerns that you're expressing, and we've also demonstrated the economics of this, that so much so that we're on the brink of another LIPA RFP coming out, and there are literally dozens of companies calling Suffolk County saying, we want to work with you. We understand that you get how to do solar power, so we're ready to partner. So we'll see what that brings. You can expect an announcement in the next week or so.
Maybe we can bring manufacturing here.
Well, I've met with 3 solar manufacturers, and the sad irony is that the cost of electricity here, which we're trying to bring down through projects like this and others, prohibits them from here. And there are a couple of other logistical concerns that they've pointed out that were surprising, but we're always open to that. Yes, so yes, we will revisit that as well.
Okay, Mike?
First off, looking at what you just said about the cost of electricity here, I do know that downstate power can be brought down here, theoretically, through the lines, and that LIPA does occasionally make tax breaks. No, they're not taxing authority. Does do rate breaks for people. Has anyone looked into that on basically an IDA kind of concept to see what the prices might be? Maybe LIPA can make a special exception. Okay, the second thing is, following up on what Larry is saying, sometimes you have to balance things under seeker. At least that's my understanding of how the document works and what our charge is. You have to balance sometimes the project itself, and then, if you will, as Larry's pointing out, the macroeconomic aspects of it. My guess is right now that what we're supposed to do today, and this is where I go to one side on this, I think we have to look at this in a narrow sense in one way, in that we're just basically approving, if we do, movement of a solar site from Ronkonkoma Station over to Brentwood. The site itself at Brentwood seems to be mostly parking lots or disturbed area according to the analysis that we've been presented. So in that sense, it's almost ministerial what we're doing. We're just, we've done a previous negative declaration on these types of, on this particular project, the overall project. So in that sense, I think we can look at it very narrowly. There is always, of course, the danger of looking at things too narrowly, and I show you what happened at Brookhaven National Lab when they put in a giant solar array and knocked down, I think it was 200 acres of woods, which was a travesty as far as I'm concerned, and I can't believe anybody actually from the environmental community either agreed with it or allowed it to happen, or that the NEPA situation actually passed. I mean, that's unbelievable, and that plays into what you're talking about, the impacts of this. There are going to be impacts. But this particular project, I think we look at narrowly. We're not policy making in that sense. We're being asked to shift something in that sense. A lot of what Larry is talking about, and I do give it a great amount of credence, I think we're past that point at this point in time. Do we exalt form over substance when we make that kind of a decision? Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. But I think we need to focus on what we're being presented with today, which is a shift from one site to another without major environmental impacts. Keeping in mind, of course, that there could be some problems associated with the entire concept. That's what I'm looking at
Larry?
this point in time.
I don't disagree with Mike. However, if you're going forward with new projects, I think it's important that we have the answers to those questions. I think it's federal law that says we're not allowed to ship electronic waste to China and other countries for exactly the same reasons that could be an issue with generating these kinds of materials that we're utilizing. So if in the next time around, if there is a next time, I think that the environmental analysis has got to be much broader than what you have presented here.
Yeah, I just support what both Mike and Larry are saying, because there's a full cycle here. It's the old, from cradle to grave routine. And so that's really critical on the bigger scale of the environment for the entire globe.
Understood. Your point's well taken.
Mike?
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
Any other concerns? Dan?
I just have a general question about the solar power electric generation. Is the electricity used on those particular sites? Will all of it be used on the college campus? And if not, does LIPA purchase it, and do they do it at the fluctuating market rate, or is there a set rate for it, or what?
So this whole project is predicated on a LIPA power purchase agreement. They selected a company to build this distributed energy system, and they will pay this company for energy generated. The energy that's going to be generated at Grant, as what you parked under today at the Dennison building and at other county sites, goes directly into the grid. So LIPA is purchasing it. It's not being used by the county facilities. That was part of the deal.
The company, we're just leasing them the land for the solar arrays.
Right.
And is there a possibility that they would have to pay more for it than they would have to pay elsewhere?
There is a slight premium on this, but again, it was a demonstration project when LIPA came out with the 50 megawatt RFP in 2008. They were aggressively trying to meet the standard that then Governor set. It was 45 by 2015. And so Long Island has been carrying the burden on having the state meet that, other than the hydro plants that are upstate, really, and some wind farms that are popping up like mushrooms and might generate similar concerns about how they're made and where they're made. Long Island has been leading on solar, and in part because of the projects that we've mentioned today, and in part because of the Solar Pioneer project, where people are using it for their homes. We're closing in on 5,000 homes on Long Island alone that are using solar PV. So the region has been a leader in this.
Mike.
I remember what I was going to say. I have a personal line in the sand for these types of projects. I don't have a problem with, for example, what happened in the parking lots out here. I understand that county land often is the largest chunk of land available for these types of projects. If you exclude, for example, landfills, the one in Smithtown and Huntington would be a perfect location for this. But, there comes a point, you mentioned that there are other projects out there. There comes a point where you have to start balancing, as Larry was saying, the environmental impacts. And I will tell you right now, my personal line in the sand is a Brookhaven's lab type of project. If they're going to knock down 200 acres to put up a bunch of solar panels, when they had the open space to put it in, but it simply would not have been concentrated the way they're doing, I'm never going to go for something like that.
Understood. We stayed
yeah,
away
well,
from undisturbed sites, and we would do so in the future.
Yeah, I think because frankly, you'll never get through this body if you start doing something. If somebody proposes something like what happened at Brookhaven, frankly, Brookhaven, they could have done it a different way. They had to have a couple of DC regulators, more than they would have otherwise had, but it wasn't a substantial cost to use the open space that they had there. So, it was stupidity on that project, and I'm not afraid to say that.
Eva, I just want to say that I think overall it's a great project, and I think that everybody's to be commended on the pursuit of this because there was a lot of creative thinking and partnering and negotiating that went on, obviously, with this. Now, if we can only do this with wastewater management and a few other things, we'll be in good shape.
Right.
Wait, there's wastewater management in Suffolk County?
Where?
Secret out. Okay. Any other concerns?
I'd also like to thank, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I am excited about the Ronkonkoma project and the flexibility that's needed there, and I'm glad this project's able to be flexible to allow them the same.
Okay, Sarah?
I just wanted to thank all of the members of CEQ for making time in the schedule to look at this project closely. And also wanted to thank Lisa for her leadership and really shepherding this project from beginning to where it is right now. She's done an amazing job, and for Peter for preparing the jumping in and preparing the documents.
It was a good document.
So.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what are we supposed to do right now?
We're basically unlisted neg deck
Okay,
to
all
change
right.
the site.
All right,
Is there a motion?
Motion, unlisted neg deck.
Is there a second? Second by Rich. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed.
Now that we're
Thank
finished
you.
the environmental.
Yeah.
Ice slides off of that? Is there a little?
They're
Is there a little?
slightly warm,
Yeah, so it doesn't
But,
really...
but is there like a
A gutter drip
what do you
edge
call
type of
that?
thing?
Yeah, an edging that
Yeah.
would catch the slide?
they've made it's a minuscule lift because of
That's all you need.
reasons, but
Great.
including that one.
Actually, in Europe, what they do is they don't have those kinds of slips. They literally have maybe something as large as my palm at the edge of a roof. And maybe 3 feet away, they'll have something like another one like that, and
break
it's to
it.
hold the snow. Or the
Oh,
ice.
to hold it.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was simple.
Okay, moving on. Other business. Suffolk County Stormwater Management Program Annual Report 2012. Good morning, Emerson. Welcome back.
This is Emerson.
Morning. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Yeah, it's April.
Thank you, Madam
April
Chairwoman.
showers
Thank
bring
you to the rest
Emerson
of the council. April showers bring our annual report.
Yes,
So that means we're in a drought. Go away.
It is going to rain this weekend, though.
Yeah.
You sure about that?
rain
You
last
counting on that?
Yeah, it was.
From your mouth to God's ears.
But yeah, our annual rite of spring. Thank you again for allowing us to present our annual stormwater report as part of the public participation, public hearing process through this venue. We appreciate the opportunity very much, so thank you. My name is Emerson Hasbrook. I'm Program Director for the Marine Program with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County. Other staff who work on our stormwater program are here with me today from Cornell: Mark Capolino, Lauren Rousseau, and Carolyn Zukowski. This is a joint project with Cornell Cooperative Extension and Suffolk County Department of Public Works, as well as Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning. And Frank Castelli is also here today from Economic Development and Planning. And Frank is the person who oversees the program with some people from DPW as well. The funding for this project and this program actually comes through Frank's office through the 477 Water Quality Program. So I want to thank the county for the funds to carry out this program. And basically, we implement the federally mandated and state permitted stormwater program for Suffolk County. to make sure that, that the county is in compliance with its stormwater speedies permit and to carry out all of the required elements of the program. I have some extra copies of the annual report. If anybody would like to have a copy.
One was enough.
You want one for the record? So I'm going to go through and just highlight some of the activities. You can interrupt me at any time if you'd like for questions. We can take some questions at the end as well. Any comments that you may have are greatly appreciated. Under the program element of public education and outreach, we conducted 117 youth classes where we reached a little over 3,000 children during the year. And this report is for the report year from March of 2011 through March 9th of 2012. We reached over 3,000 children through youth classes, mostly through public schools, and 15 civic association meetings where we reached about 450 adults. We have a stormwater website. If anybody's interested or if you haven't visited the website, SuffolkStormwater.com. We had over 5,500 visitors during the year, and they viewed over 11,000 pages on the website. We've got a brochure called Where Does the Rain Go in both English and Spanish. We distributed about 6,000 copies of that during the year. We had 14 radio PSAs on lawn care and fertilizer use that were aired on WBAB. And they have a listenership of 425,000 people. We also had a video stormwater PSA, was aired over 100 times on 5 local town public access TV stations throughout Suffolk County. You know, they're often on at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you can also see them sometimes at more appropriate times as well. Yes?
When you say 5 public access stations, was East Hampton one of them?
You guys remember?
I don't think it was East Hampton, no.
Because I would like to recommend, I'm on the board of the television station, I'd like to recommend that we get one.
Okay, sure.
Okay, we'll make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. We have a stormwater demonstration site at the Suffolk County Farm in Yaphank. During the past year, we updated that and maintained it, and that site serves to educate the public about stormwater best management practices that they can implement around their homes, including we have a rain garden there with native plants, a rain barrel, green roof, and permeable pavement. So next time you're in Yaphank, stop by the farm and take a look at our demonstration site. Under public participation and involvement, we continue to do curb markings next to stormwater catch basins with our duck logo that says do not dump drains to bay or drains to lake. We interacted with about 1,000 adults and children at various fairs and festivals during the year throughout the county. This CEQ public hearing is part of our public participation and involvement, and we mailed out about 100 copies of our annual report to interested individuals. Under illicit discharge detection and elimination, 58 outfalls, and this is just county outfalls and county roads and county properties. 58 outfalls out of a total of 296 that we've identified. 58 of those were monitored for dry weather flow. Each outfall was visited 3 times to check for dry weather flow, and this is to try to determine if there's any illicit connection or discharge into the county stormwater system. 4 outflows with dry weather flow were tested for illicit discharges. Stormwater conveyance mapping for all of the 298 outfalls was updated. Total of a little over 2,300 conveyance structures, which are catch basins, culverts, easement basins, etc., and over 2,300 pipe connections. have all been mapped and entered into the Suffolk County Stormwater GIS system. So that's all GIS mapped, all of the actual structures as well as most of the underground conveyance in terms of what's connected to what.
What percentage would you say is covered? Do you have a sense?
What percent has been mapped? Well, the county conveyance system has all been mapped.
The entire
So,
county
yeah.
system is now mapped?
Yes, for anything that's connected to an outfall pipes. You know, so there could be standalone leaching basins which have been mapped through other efforts by the DPW, but we are just focusing on anything that actually connects to an outfall and discharges to the surface water body.
Right.
So all of those systems have been mapped.
Mike?
Emerson? You're talking about the GIS maps and things like that. Have you guys been able to draw any larger conclusions and from what you've seen on the mapping process and possibly present it to the authorities that be, whether it's DPW or the towns having jurisdiction?
In terms of what, Mike? I'm not quite following.
Well, I mean, let's say, well, some of the towns, for example, may not be aware of some of the outfalls. Okay, I won't mention the town that I'm a resident of, but it's entirely possible they don't have those kinds of mappings, and they may not be aware and may not be able to swing funds over to deal with some of those pipes. As such, basically, the information, the mapping that you've done, have you communicated with the municipal authorities, again, having jurisdiction in the area, whether it's a town or a village or whatever?
Well, the mapping that we're doing is specifically for county roads and county parcels where there's an identified discharge. Now, some of those, there is some intermunicipal connection where stormwater may be coming from a town road, entering into a county catch basin, and then being discharged through a county outfall. We do communicate with the towns. We've made this information available to the towns. We are working with some of the towns as well, you know, separately to help them with their stormwater programs. I don't know, Lauren and Carol, do you want to add anything relative to our GIS work?
No, like I said, the towns really have their own programs and they have separate structures. You know, there are cases where they do connect to each other and we do map those. There have been a couple cases where we've been investigating outfalls to see, you know, taking water quality samples, see what comes out of it. And if we find something that we didn't find anything in the county system, then maybe we thought there might be something in the town. So we have given that data to the town saying you might want to take a look at this thing over here, which is actually your responsibility.
Is the goal going to be, you know, an interconnected, comprehensive map that covers town, village, county?
It should be. Unfortunately, most municipalities are just sort of looking out and trying to get permit compliance with their own program, so they're just worried about mapping their own systems. Eventually, it would be good to get some larger project and bring all these maps together so you have one massive conveyance system for all of Suffolk County, where every town, village, and county contribute their data and everything's right there. But so far, that hasn't happened.
Well, I participated in BNL's Earth Summit yesterday and heard Chris Gobler's presentation on toxic tides and the nitrogen loading in the bays, and you know, how this is very critical information. What you're putting together, you know, could also be helpful when trying to figure out a filter, you know, a comprehensive filtering response. And
yeah,
so
and a lot of the education we should do also touches on that in terms of reducing the amount of fertilizers we use, and which, you know, obviously when it rains, fertilizers, you know, wash right in the base.
yeah, obviously what he's saying is most of it's from septic, but
yeah, he's saying a lot. Yeah,
the
a lot of it's directly in the
pesticide
ground.
piece does contribute,
And there is a septic component of this program as well, where we've been doing education outreach specifically for septic systems as well, in terms of what the homeowners should be doing, could be doing. You know, so that'll be touched on as well.
Emerson, the one of the questions is, you know, about the information available in GIS, and yes, it is for the county's information for their conveyance system. Do you think that information will ever be available on the web for the public to actually access and view?
I'm going to have to, possibly. It's possible. I don't know. Frank, do you have any indication? I don't want to put you on the spot, but we're utilizing the county system. I mean, we've got our own GIS software where we put the information together on our own computers, and, you know, from GPSing it out in the field, but then it's on the county's system, so it's really a matter of when or if the county is gonna make that
Right
available.
now, there is no, there's no plan for that to happen. We could look into that. We have to be speaking to the county GIS people.
Yeah.
and
The county
tech
GIS
office.
group has developed a relatively new website where they have put layers on there, and they have contacts. We've given a couple layers for things that we've done. We haven't put the outfall layers on there because we're not sure whether the county wants that published and wants that online. But the mechanism does exist now, and that the county does have a new GIS online website where they're putting in data where anybody can public and just zoom into a map
Okay.
and pick from various layers. So if the county wants to put the outfall layer there, the mechanism's there, and the county GIS department can do it. So,
Okay. I'm just
If
curious.
that's what the county wants, we're happy to give the outfall layers in whatever format we
Okay.
need, and we can make that happen.
All right. Mike?
Emerson, two questions. First question, you said this stuff that has been done for the county is available to the local municipalities having jurisdiction. In other words, the towns or villages, et cetera. Okay. Has anyone been trying to, from those municipalities, trying to actively use that information to help their programs out?
Yeah. A couple towns have contacted us saying, it would help us with our mapping if we could see where the county structures were. And we forwarded that request to DPW, and they said, sure, send them the database. So they did receive all the county's maps on their outfalls, so they can look at their own outfalls and sort of...
The reason I ask is, and I'll give you the specific example, I'm involved with the cleaning of the Nisqually River's northeast branch. I've been participating in 477 applications, such as the money existed way back when, in better times. And, I don't know, there's been $5,750,000 allocated for dredging of the river, and also trying to clean up and repair some of the outfall pipes. I personally discovered a number that were on no maps whatsoever that had been built in the 1970s when subdivisions came in. And we're in this massive effort to try and clean the river. We're getting rid of the silt, etc. But again, the information as to who has what pipes doesn't always filter down. Now, I've been involved with it. I have no clue, literally, where these pipes are. I have some of the Smithtown's catch basin maps, but I don't know where the pipes go. I mean, it's that poor condition. And I know that there are county roads that traverse the northeast corridor, Terry Road and things like that in Smithtown. And, it's a gap in our knowledge, if you will, that, here we are, and I'm one of the planners, trying to figure things out and where to swing money and how to do things. And we have literally, we just don't have the information. Now, if it's being closely held, that's one thing. But, if the towns can get it, hey, that's great. I don't know how actively they're going about it. But again, I'm one of the point people on it. I got nothing.
Yeah, and I can't remember what towns have done it. I know Brookhaven has, and there's one other town, I believe. Yeah, they could just contact us, and we just send an email to Gil Anderson, the Commissioner of DPW, and he says okay, and then we just,
All right, so basically, who would we run it through? You guys, and then you make the request?
And, yeah, we'll make the request too, and it's Gil.
Okay.
Gil Anderson who's makes the decision and approves it.
I just wanted to add too, I know in speaking with the various towns, that most of the towns, if not all of them, would love to have Suffolk County take the lead on the entire stormwater.
I'm sure they would.
issue. But it's a real matter of funding.
Yeah.
There's just, we're just having a difficult time getting the funding just for the county responsibility.
I mean, I know, for example, in my hometown, not to denigrate it or anything, they have partial. All right, so I'll go all in. Okay, all my chips are on the table on this one, kids. Okay, fortunately, I have a winning hand. Basically, we have some mapping done at the town of Smithtown and some information, but there's no way. Literally, those records are either lost or unavailable, or else incredibly difficult to do ground truthing on. So it's a problem. And they can't do it. They don't have the resources, and the county doesn't have the resources. So we're sort of in a catch-22, trying to repair something without having the information. Smoke bombs don't always work to find out where everything goes.
Yeah, it's a difficult process, and it's time consuming both in terms of trying to find out what records are available through the municipalities, DPW, and then the ground truthing. Sometimes, or lots of times, you have to send somebody out there to pull the grates off of catch basins and look to see what pipes are coming into it, what direction they go. You walk down the road, you find the next one.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the person who's worked in the highway department the longest has the most information about what's connected to what, because they've had to repair it over the years.
Perfect example is I have a 30-acre marshland that fills up in heavy rains when we get them in Smithtown, and I made the shocking discovery, and nobody knew about it. It all leads up to an 18-inch pipe, and everyone was wondering why the area flooded in heavy rains. Well, there's no drainage. It's an 18-inch pipe, and nobody knows whether it's working or not. Just doing the math, it just doesn't work.
Eva?
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on that.
I know the town of Southampton is doing a lot to kind of look at their whole stormwater situation. Are there links from your website to the various hamlets, villages, and towns, townships, and stuff? I don't know if they've got theirs online, but is there any kind of effort being made that way?
I don't think we have any links from our stormwater site to the other municipalities' stormwater.
They should do the reverse.
Well, or
they should
some
be
way.
pushing to these guys.
Yeah.
We could PA and other.
But there might be an effort that could be made that way.
We could take a look at that and find out what municipalities also have information. And sometimes it's just part, it's part of the. I've seen it, where you go to the town's homepage, and then off of that there'll be some information that they have on their stormwater program. So we could try to put together links.
Yeah, or they could, or invite them to make a link to you or something,
Yeah,
on the county website.
Because I know they've made a huge effort. I just don't know what it's publicized.
Yeah, the town of Southampton has a pretty large program.
Yeah.
Kara, did you want to say something?
We'll make sure we can get some cross links.
Just sort of a point of information for some of the town and anybody representing villages or actively working with villages. Suffolk County, I have a legislation, IR 1302. Suffolk County recently tried catch basin inserts, filters in storm drains, and they didn't work for us because we put hundreds in and they were higher maintenance than we thought. But they might, my legislation is to access them and provide them to villages and towns that can use them and may want to use them if they fit, what you have. And if you have the resources to do the kind of quarterly maintenance, cleaning out that it may take. So just FYI, those hundreds of those are going to be available for reuse by other municipalities that may.
Karen, those are the Fabco?
Yes.
Inserts?
These were the funny rocks.
Are there hundreds of them, you say?
Yes. They didn't work for the county's purposes. So, but what I want to do is I don't want to see them scrapped. I'd rather see them go towards stormwater remediation at a local level where maybe a village may have 10, 20 sites and could actually do the maintenance that we can't do.
As Emerson can tell you, the push
that.
now is much more retrofitting is the next good idea that we'll all find ourselves doing.
So by connecting with some of the other municipalities, somebody might pick up on what you're saying, because you mentioned that the last time.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. No, that's good. No, that's okay. But now they know
4 months
that's
in already.
Last meeting feels like a year ago.
No,
sorry about that.
It's good to no.
But that was good for this meeting because it felt up to that.
It felt very relevant.
It was perfect. It was relevant. It is
Joy?
relevant.
I have a question.
Okay.
So you got that you might want to inquire. Yeah. Okay.
How and
very well
where has this program succeeded in improving surface water quality?
That's a very good question and a very difficult question to answer. And as part of the Phase 2 stormwater program, well, that's the goal of it, but part of it is to try to determine that. And the DEC has recently approved a model to help municipalities determine what the improvements have been for water quality. And some of the issue is every water body on Long Island has inputs from multiple jurisdictions, different municipalities, the county, the state, the town, perhaps an incorporated village. And all of those entities are at different levels within their Phase 2 stormwater program. So if you went out and if we did some water quality testing 3 or 4 years ago, and then went back out similar, to the same stations and did water quality testing, we may or may not see improvement. And again, because there's inputs from various sources. But the goal is that if each municipality, as they implement their Phase 2 program, they're going to reduce pollutants. They're going to reduce pollutants that get into stormwater, as well as reducing stormwater inputs as well, volume of stormwater. So there will be reductions and improvements in water quality. Very difficult question to answer.
But are you measuring that, or is your report going to indicate that what you are doing is making a difference?
Lauren, can you update us in terms of where the state is with the model? Because that's what the state is requiring under the speedies. Quantification is to quantify through a model that they approve and select for this purpose.
They're currently working on the model. They're supposed to be coming down Long Island in the next couple of months to provide presentations on how to implement and do the model. But the model is really going to be based on theoretics, because the cost associated with just showing improvement in one water body, let alone in the hundreds of water bodies around Long Island, is enormous. You have to be monitoring for years and years at a time, and a lot of monitoring. So the model is really a theoretical model saying if you've done this, meaning education outreach, if you've retrofitted this pipe, if you've done this and that, then theoretically you should have this kind of this reduction in pollutants entering the water body. Therefore, the water body is improving.
It's like a quantification clinic.
Correct. It's a way for the state to help the permittees show that they've done what the state can't help them figure out how to really show. So the state's saying, all right, tell you what, if you're this many acres and you have this much parkland and this many houses, we think it should be a ratio of such and such. Put your number in here. We'll certify the model, but it's far from what it would take to really make that work in Mike's backyard, or anybody else's for real on the ground. So it's the best way to do this self-evaluation. The other point I wanted to offer with regard to is it making it better yet is that some parts of what we're trying to fix are way, way high. Like I wrote the TMDL for some of the coliform issues. It's too high. Everybody better cut back. The cutback requirements are 90% reductions. In order to do 90% reduction of coliform into Conscience Bay, for example,
kill all the swamps.
You'd have to, this is a joke, but it's not a joke, you'd have to shoot every pet in the watershed. Because the loads associated with any pet that you don't pick it up and ship it to a landfill is enough to tip it. So the point is, the measurable differences, can you see it? We're way high, and if it comes down, that'll help, but it's far from enough yet to really be able to see it or to demonstrably get there. So, but we have to keep trying. It's incremental, just like the power supply. Is it really going to show a difference in rate? No, but we're inching away. So that's kind of how you have to tolerate the loosey-goosey answers. They're doing what they need to, and it's the best everybody can figure out to do within the costs available.
Larry?
I'm just going to ask you a little bit about the physics of the situation. What percentage of the overland flow do you suppose that you're actually capturing now? Yeah.
Capturing and infiltrating, or
That
capturing
you're causing
and
it to go into infiltration.
Capturing and infiltration. I don't know what the percentage is. I don't know. Do you guys have any sense?
In terms of what the county's capturing?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be a fraction of 1%, just because the county only has 1% of, or I'm not sure what 1% of the land, but they only have a very small percentage of the land in the county, and of that land, they're only capturing a very small percent of the water on that land. So it would be, a fraction of 1%. I couldn't really guess what.
what I was getting at is, at what point do you begin to do more harm than good, in the sense that we depend on overland flow to create the proper estuarine hydrodynamics in all our water bodies, and if we're capturing all of that now and going to run it through some sort of a retention basin, then so that you have a detention time of days to weeks, we're going to alter the physics, and I'm wondering, are we in danger of reaching that point? Has anybody looked at it?
To my knowledge, nobody's really looked at it that closely, but yes, that is an issue. And the primary goal is to reduce the pollutants in stormwater.
Right.
So if you can reduce or eliminate the pollutants that are in stormwater, then the water that's getting into bays and harbors is going to have a reduced or eliminated pollutant load, so you can still have that flow of water going in. But yes, some of the means to reduce the pollutant load is extended detention, is infiltration. And with infiltration, it's a totally different pathway in terms of water getting into bays and harbors. And that's some of the discussion with sewage treatment plants as well. Is you're going to pump the water out of the ground and then pipe it to wherever, which may bypass the volume of groundwater getting into local bays and harbors, and that disrupts the hydrology.
Emerson? Larry and I brought this point up, I don't know, when you first started coming here years and years and years ago, which was we were worried about some of the marshes and some of the inland water bodies losing their water budgets. Essentially, this model that you're developing, or the model that has been developed, where you're trying to go for detention, you're basically shifting everything into a groundwater-based situation, which you alluded to a second ago, as opposed to overland transport. And again, Larry and I had brought this up, which is you're eliminating that overland transport, and no one, we're hitting the same issue 10 years later.
Isn't sediment really?
Well,
sediment sometimes you need it.
Yeah,
the argument really that I've heard more isn't really as the water balance as much as it is the sediment.
Well, for marshes, yes, but for classic estuarine
coming off the top, or
yeah.
Well, for example, you look at
nothing Emerson's going to do differently. I mean, he's got to do it the way that the
I know
forms every year say you got to do it. Keep doing it.
Right, we got to make sure the county is in compliance. But yes, you're absolutely right, and that component I don't think has been looked at very closely by the state and by the EPA in terms of the national and the state program. Even in upstate areas, in terms of streams and so forth, it can be an issue. Yes, you don't want to have a large volume of stormwater coming in carrying a large sediment load. So if you can attenuate that somehow, and you're talking about overland flow, overland flow is a treatment system. Run water through a vegetated buffer. That affords that stormwater some treatment and removes some of the pollutant load, but still allows the water to get into the local embayment.
Well, remember though, we're Long Island, we're sand-based. We're on the remnants of a glacial moraine over here. Upstate is basically rock, if you will. They don't have aquifers the way we do. Their water transport systems are 100% different. I guess I would more pose this to Larry. If we're detaining water and putting it into the groundwater, is there any idea of the budgets out there in terms of water resources? Let me rephrase that. Are we going to be harming anything significantly around here if we're only
That's why I was asking if it's only.
I was wondering if you had an answer.
No, I don't have an answer. That's why I was asking.
If you knew, what's our basic? Our marshes, for example. Let's look at them. The intertidal marshes. Do they have a groundwater component, or is it an overland transport?
Yeah.
They're both.
Both.
But there's no idea of the percentages of which way it works or which way they are.
Larry, write a grant.
I don't know right now.
I was thinking of that. Tom and I could do about a $2 million grant.
Right.
A different question, but toward the programmatic status. in the early years, the state would take last year's report, compare it to this year's report, and say, let's see, last year you mapped 2 new outfalls. This year, you got 3 more. Okay, that's increase. And they were kind of making us do more to do more. Are we at the point yet? Because some of your metrics actually say same as last year. And I think that that's probably enough. Can we keep with that same as last year? Or do you have to keep amping up your budget and amping up your places that you...
For some things, outflows. Once you've, outflows. Once you've identified all the outflows, you've identified them.
But PSA placements, for example, is that enough? I mean, do we have? Feels like you got a lot of coverage. Keep going with the next generation of kids as they come through, and that.
Right.
But the inspection and the SWIP self-auditing and who's auditing, the state's getting sued about who's allowed to be auditing. That's the part that of the whole game that looks like it's still not in control. It's not really predictable enough. So is there anything that we can do to help you get the resources aimed at the right stuff and kind of go back to settling to a steady state level of effort on the ones that are routine enough?
Well, I think the state realizes that for some activities you're going to get to a point where it's going to be in a way status quo. Again, once you've identified all the outflows, and then you're looking at those for dry weather flows, that's kind of a routine thing. Retrofits is going to be the next thing that comes along. The state is looking a lot now at what municipalities are doing in terms of good housekeeping, pollution prevention and good housekeeping. That's part of my report that I haven't quite got to yet. So the state is auditing municipalities and for their stormwater program. A lot of the focus has been on the good housekeeping, pollution prevention. We don't know what the change is going to be on the speedies permit for municipalities based on the recent lawsuit. Our guidance from the state is just to continue along under the current speedies permit, and you'll be okay until they revise it based on whatever legal opinion I guess they have coming out of that recent court decision. But that court decision in a way said the state isn't doing enough. So requirements are probably going to be a little bit more stringent as we go forward.
And it's not likely to be the state that's going to do more. They're just going to crank up yourself. But I think, if I remember correctly, the objection that prompted the suit was that the state's not enforcing, and yet the moving target is who is responsible and certifiable to do the enforcement, which gets it back to the permitted party, right?
Right.
And that's probably going to be more staff or more staff training before you can do.
It may be. We're going to have to see what guidance comes down from the state on that.
We appreciate your efforts to keep whacking them all, whatever.
The focus now is, and you mentioned TMDLs, the focus now is on TMDL areas, areas that have a calculated total maximum daily load. So that's been over the past couple of years, the state has said that municipalities should focus their efforts in those areas, and that's what we've done for the county, is focused our activities in TMDL areas. But good point, Tom. Yes.
Emerson, if you're looking at TMDLs, though, is anyone looking at the wild bird populations? I think as it was alluded to a couple minutes ago, as they impact the TMDLs?
That's some of the calculation on TMDLs.
Has anyone come up with suggestions about what to do with it?
Other than Canada geese, and pet waste, there isn't a lot that you can do with it, really.
Well, bluntly, as I was telling Kara, my harbor is infested with Canadian geese, and they just called, and also with swans. And it's really knocking our TMDLs back. And we've got huge chloroform loads and things like that. The closed areas of Stony Brook Harbor to shell fishing are steadily advancing northward in areas that are poorly flushed. I mean, literally, there could be a justification for hunting of Canadian geese to eliminate the populations.
I'll let you push that forward.
Kara did disagree with me.
Especially the swans.
I know of a restaurant that would be really interested in.
They eat swans in
Didn't your
England.
report said mention that there were efforts to reduce the goose population?
Yes. Yeah, we have an egg oiling program. Yes, I haven't gotten to that.
Okay.
yet.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Cook eggs in oil.
Under any more questions before I move forward? Under construction, post-construction site runoff control, we worked with the county Soil and Water Conservation District to present 4 erosion and sediment control training workshops where 122 private contractors were trained in sediment and erosion control and the standards that are required under the Phase 2 program. Contractors operating on county projects are required to certify that they've read and understand the requirements of the SWIPs, and the SWIPs are Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan that has to be developed and then implemented for each construction project. So all county contractors have to certify that they've read and understand those requirements. The county expends a significant amount of effort and resources on inspecting and maintaining stormwater structures. And in this reporting period, over 2,000 post-construction stormwater management structures were inspected and 543 were maintained by county DPW relative to with DPW and their contractors in terms of stormwater remediation. You know, if they install additional infiltration basins or replace catch basins with infiltration basins and so forth. Also, the county invests extensive resources into implementing remediation efforts and technologies. Again, leaching basins, detention ponds, and alternative BMPs. During this reporting period, there were 62 projects completed since the program started. 17 projects have been funded and are in the design phase, and 7 projects are currently being constructed. And there's approximately 26 additional projects planned for future funding, and that's through DPW on the road maintenance program. We've assisted the county in focusing remediation efforts within watersheds of impaired and TMDL water bodies. We just spoke about that. Under pollution prevention and good housekeeping, the county maintains roads, bridges, and parking lots, and sweeps those roads and parking lots and so forth. And approximately 1,000 miles of road and 300 acres of parking lot were swept during the past year. Over 2,000 catch basins were inspected and cleaned, resulting in over 1,500 cubic yards of debris. We're working with Suffolk County Department of Parks and with the legislature in approving a local law to prohibit pet waste and waterfowl feeding on county property. So that's now in force, where you have to pick up after your pet on all county properties, and you're not allowed to feed waterfowl.
Wait, back up for a second. We have dog parks out there, so it's now a requirement that you have to pick up after your animal?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was always
has been.
Yeah, but when we asked Nick about the canisters or the facilities to put stuff in, he specifically told us that
They just dump it in the water?
when they do those canisters, people that drive by put yesterday's household garbage and they quickly overflow, become an attractive nuisance, raccoons and everywhere else. So it feels like that's a little bit of a tough one. I guess that he's doing the best he can to have dog park ability, but the park users are going to just have to take it with them because it's not
Either that or
something we
get
can
bigger
provide.
barrels.
Did he say that
Smaller
they provide plastic bags for?
Put judge.
Yeah. He did say that.
Take it with you.
Okay.
As opposed to putting it in.
Take it with you would be a better solution. Yeah.
Put it in my knapsack.
Yeah, you have to pick up after your pet.
Yeah.
Emerson, while you were talking about roads and bridges and so forth, a while back we approved a project here that had sort of an permeable pavement, as I recall, or it was maybe it was not the main part of the road, but it was.
Yaphank Avenue.
Huh?
Yaphank Avenue.
Yaphank Avenue. Do you have any results from the success of that, or whether or not it functions well?
I'm not sure if that's been completed.
Anybody have any
not.
feedback on that?
Yeah, I'm not, that's CR21.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that construction's done yet.
Okay.
The planning stages have been done, and I guess it came before you?
Yes.
Not this past December, I think the December before.
Okay. In that regard, it would be very helpful if we knew whether it's working, what its durability is.
Okay.
Uh,
Somebody make a note of that.
Does the material tend to get clogged to the point where it no longer functions, and we're paying exorbitantly to buy this perhaps more expensive material? It would be a real good experiment.
Larry, what section of CR21 is that?
I don't remember.
I think it went up across from where the lake is there, and then up Main Street. I think the whole project was that curve there, and there was the porous pavement across from the spillway there, and then a couple of basin replacements along Main
Lower
Street.
Lake, wasn't it? Lower Lake.
Around the corner around Lower Lake.
Just north of the expressway there.
We'll find out from DPW what the status is of that project, if they have any results or anything that they can report back. And either us or DPW will report back to you.
Because we approve a lot of these types of projects, and for example, in the villages, we'll ask for permeable paving, and if something clicks, Larry just brought it up, nobody knows if this stuff is working or not. That's an interesting thing to look at.
We'll see what we can find out for you. We'll also see if we can find out some results from other areas where they've installed similar types of porous paving, if they've got any results as well. We started to develop an online training program for Suffolk County DPW employees, as well as Parks and Recreation employees, and the training is to provide staff that gives a general overview of the Phase 2 stormwater program, issues surrounding stormwater, as well as best management practices that they can utilize to help minimize and prevent stormwater at county facilities and parks. So that's for the general employees of DPW and Parks training program. We've been conducting evaluations of Suffolk County municipal operations and maintenance facilities in order to assess stormwater best management practices at those facilities, DPW yards and so forth. And again, that's something that the state has been focusing on when they've audited municipalities. We've also been working with Soil and Water Conservation District as well as Parks in establishing a resident goose management program in an effort to reduce pathogen pollutants, from our resident Canada goose population. We're doing an egg oiling program. We've been implementing this program at about 50 different sites within Suffolk County. And in the 2011 nesting season, we identified a total of 40 nests and oiled a couple of hundred eggs. And right now, we're in the process of doing that in this next nesting season. We're going around the county facilities identifying nests and oiling eggs.
Only 40 sites, you say, or 40 nests?
40 nests.
Wow. There's a lot more geese than that out there.
Oh, I know there is. Yes, yes. We're limited in a way by manpower, though.
How do you select the location?
By what we've seen in terms of goose population, as well as areas that are candidate nesting sites.
Proximity
You want to expand
waterway?
upon that a little bit?
We met probably a year and a half ago with some people from parks and from buildings to ask them what parcels they knew of that had problems, whether it's golf courses or whatnot. So they gave us our initial round of sites, and well, we know there's problems on these county parcels, these county parks, these county buildings. So that's what we initially focused, and then we just had technicians go out last year and just start scouting county parks and stuff, looking for additional sites. So, if you have additional sites that we're not targeting, just let us know, and then we can always go take a look, see if we can find necessary. And obviously, all this is focusing on county properties and county roads.
Larry?
In fact, two candidate sites are this facility here, the Dennison building, as well as across the street.
Do you train
last year.
town employees to do the same on town properties?
No.
Larry?
Let Larry go, please.
Sorry.
You probably wished I hadn't come today, but let me suggest another way to look at this with regard to water quality, and that is to again consider the hydrodynamics of the water bodies. For example, it would probably buy you a lot more if you eliminated some of the birds in the upper reaches of the Forge River than down to the south. In Stony Brook Harbor, one of the calculations we went through in the south end of the harbor, which is closed to shell fishing, it only takes 20 swans to keep that area permanently closed. Right. So if you look at the flushing characteristics of some of our rivers and harbors and so forth, you might be able to target some real hot spots where it would be beneficial.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, in fact, the fecal coliform loading from a swan or a Canada goose is approximately the same level of coliform loading from humans.
Yeah.
And there's a pond in Riverhead that a couple years ago had an estimate of 20 to 30,000 Canada geese in it during the winter. So that was equivalent essentially to the entire population of Riverhead. The coliform loading going into that one pond. So yes, you're
Call
absolutely
INS.
Right. Huh?
Call INS. They're undocumented.
So the concentrations are greater toward of the birds are greater in the waterways versus landside.
They nest on water sedges.
Even
near water.
so the Canada geese. I mean, I know swans do, but the Canadian geese, because out in the Hamptons, I see them all over the fields. I don't see them.
That's where they're feeding. But they're known as colonial water birds.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So part of the control program that we have is finding the nests and then oiling the eggs.
But they have to be on county property, the nests.
That's right. We're working on county property.
What kind of oil is used?
From a football field, it's not.
You just use a regular vegetable oil. Yep. Extra virgin olive oil works really well. It's a little expensive.
You get the really good stuff.
Is it dangerous? Do the swans come after you?
Yeah.
Swans will.
Swans can be aggressive.
Geese, like I'm sure you've noticed the geese here at Dennison, can be very territorial, but
you put your wolf hat on, right?
Spirit of
Are they interesting? Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, it always seems remarkable to me, and it, and I see it in terms of invasive plant species in our parks and so forth, that we have these tremendous, overwhelming problems, okay, and then we kind of like pussyfoot around the solutions to them. Sending half a dozen people out to, no offense, to oil eggs does not address, 20,000 geese. And somehow we were afraid to do well, not necessarily, but to take aggressive measures. It's like we tolerate this tremendous level of pollution and this other ramifications. I don't know, just to use the analogy of the with invasive plants, where you could use an herbicide that deteriorates very quickly in the environment, and yet we are so afraid to use all pesticides. So everything is painted toward with the same brush, and the problem keeps growing geometrically, and our ability to deal with it, stays constant.
Dan, you're entirely correct in what you're saying, and I'll give you a perfect example. DEC will not let you
do one, certain types of herbicides in larger water features, freshwater features, because they're worried about the systemic effects, even though, if you let the plant grow unchecked, it's going to take over the lake. You see that in Lake Ronkonkoma, where DEC is petrified about knocking off, say, 30 acres of underwater vegetation, which, if left unchecked, is going to take out everything. DEC also, for example, will not let you clean water bodies, certain water bodies, without jumping through hoops. There are several ponds that could benefit very, very heavily from a hydraulic vacuuming, removing some of the spores at the surface, but they won't let you restore them. They're afraid to move.
Yeah, we see that constantly, and it just seems like we've turned the whole environmental concern on its head, where we're concerned about this much of damage when we have this much of damage to deal with.
Everyone's afraid of making the fatal mistake.
No. Get off my soapbox. Thank you. But I did have another question though about permeable paving. I don't know anything about that at all. Is that something that would be applicable through an educational process to residential sites and commercial sites? I mean, I live in a historic house, so I have a gravel driveway, so I have that right off the bat. Right. But most people do have a paved driveway, and it would seem that would be a very good way to go to get people to think about that, or at least work it at the source where paving companies offer that as an alternative, especially if it's a cost-effective alternative too.
That is part of our public education program, is to educate people about porous pavement. Okay. And at our stormwater demonstration site at the county farm in Yabank, that's one of the things that we have there to show others, what is porous pavement and how can you use it, what's its benefit relative to stormwater.
Right.
Yes. Our last component goes to
another bill about county parking lots. Any new paving or repaving has to consider using green methodologies. Another one, I think.
Dan.
Oh, right.
Just as an example, it's really municipal will. My two villages, head of the harbor and Nissaquag, we constantly bring that up on driveways, and we try and limit the amount of impermeable surfaces, certain percentages and things like that. We always suggest it. A lot of the towns don't. It's really municipal will and the permitting process that you have to get into.
Right.
Okay,
Did
go
you
ahead.
declare her bill as an accomplishment of county level? Because put it in next year's report.
Right, that's what we need to do. That's right, we need to do that. Yeah, make note of that, please.
Instrumental in passing.
Right.
All right. Continue, please, Emerson.
Last item, real quick, and it goes to the issue that Joy raised before. Last component is watershed improvement strategies, and what we're doing is we're gathering together information to inform this watershed treatment model that the DEC is developing and will be requiring us to use. So to determine what the pollutant loads are to impaired and TMDL water bodies, to try to assess what the improvements have been. So that's the extent of my report. Again, thank you very much.
How many outflows did you say there were total in the county? On county roads, I mean?
298 outfalls.
So if we wanted to deal with end-of-pipe technologies instead of the catch basin side, we would need 298. Like that would handle all of our outflows from county roads.
County outfalls, yes.
Yeah,
County
road
outfalls.
and property.
298.
Okay.
And some of the 298 have already been retrofitted. There may already be storm center systems in place.
Okay.
We do work with an ambitious retrofit program where we're constantly trying to get more and more projects done.
Okay. What would you have a sense of the percentage that are already retrofitted?
To a certain extent.
Yeah, about half. Okay. Not that all the water is treated, but at least part of the system has been either upgraded or treated or whatnot.
Okay. I'll probably want more detail about that separately.
Sure. Yeah, we've created maps in terms of what outfalls from the county have been done in the past 10 years, which ones are in the current planning phases, and whatnot.
Okay.
So everything's your information.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, we've worked with DPW and economic development planning in terms of them developing kind of a priority strategy for upgrades to the discharges.
Okay, Tom?
The public education part, the first section, that PSA is not free. Somebody had to get paid to do that. I'm not going to ask how much it costs, but it costs you something to do that. And then the pamphlets, and if there are 60 other MS4s in the area, I don't even know what the number is, but let's just say it's 50 or 60. Every one of them is dealing with, do I have to write another pamphlet? Do I have to make another video? I guess I'm about to put the video people out of business. Why can't you charge them $50 or some fee that would allow your efforts that you've already done, they work well, why couldn't that become one of those partnership things where you partnership on the MM1 and exchange enough funds that it would actually offset some of your costs, it would be less than what they would have cost. And how many times do you have to write a PSA on runoff stuff? It's totally transferable. It's like in the fire department. Every fire department tries to do their own recruitment and retention. Meanwhile, the county has nationally used ads. They put stuff in Time magazine.
Right.
So the little fire departments are like, duh, let's just take advantage of the county's thing. I don't think they're paying the county, but do you think it's worth pursuing some kind of a compensation or some kind of cost recovery? Because your work it's good. Why can't it be lighten up the load on the villages so they can get it done for less, and then they can focus on the. Earlier we were talking about the pipes and the mapping. I really think that should be a local thing because only the locals know. Back in the 40s we built that. Good. Put it on the map. You can't do that at the higher scale, but you can do the education stuff. Is there something we can do to help you convince Brookhaven and all the little ones to play along?
We'll take that as a comment and include that with the comments, as well as the other comments today on the annual report. And I think that you can, whenever you have the opportunity, you can make that suggestion, because the directive that we have from the county is this is a county's project and program, and the funding is coming from the county.
Therefore, you have to.
So therefore, we're addressing the county's needs.
You weren't allowed to benefit any village or such and such. You had to stay within your fence line. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to break that. To say if they pay you, couldn't.
But you are
let
allowed
that happen.
to have a consortium of MS4s.
Yeah, you can have those partnerships for some measures.
Yes. But we've been directed to focus on the county's MS4 program and make sure that the county is in compliance with its speedies permit. But if we're given other direction and directive, we will certainly follow that.
Well, I was just going to say that when we've gotten a lot of information in our village from Emerson and his crew, and including PSAs, and I guess Eileen doesn't work for the county, but she works for the state, right? DEC?
Yes.
And she's come free of charge. Right. But you're the one that gave us the little buttons for the sewers. So where we have them, if they're still there, it was your duck that we put on our sewers. So yeah, exchange of money would be helpful.
Frank, you didn't hear that.
But they're already cutting our sales tax portion. So how much more can we give, Tom?
Should be training town.
But we're more than happy to help when we can. Yes. And even with public education, we're doing public education throughout the county, with schools and citizen groups and service groups. So if you have a group in your municipality that you'd like Mark to come give a presentation to, that helps us to satisfy the requirements for the town, but it also helps you educate your citizens as well.
Okay. Eva?
Somebody else. Joel Osteen. Not Osteen. Joel. Thank you.
We can talk after.
Right. Okay. Halsey.
This
Sorry.
church has that big parking lot.
Right. Right. That's a good point.
Emerson, thank you very much for your presentation, your thorough work. We appreciate it all here.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Joy, any CAC concerns?
I have a question. Maybe Mike can help me or maybe, Kara, you know the answer. I was at a large meeting that is no concern to CEQ particularly, but they were talking about the seeker regs and an emphasis to take away local determination and move it to the state.
There was an article on the cover of Long Island Business News about this, and I was going to ask.
I didn't read that, but I was horrified at the time when DEC is decimated. They have no people, and the idea of DEC taking over the seeker, some of the, or half of the
regionally significant project.
Right.
Okay.
This is it doesn't really involve stuff that we deal with in here. It's more at the town level, or what they are considering regionally significant projects. And I'm not quite sure how it's going to work.
Right, it was kind
Who
of
picks
vague.
and chooses what gets kicked up to them for review.
You know, Joy has a point, though.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's point counterpoint on all of it.
However, I think we should, as a body that represents Suffolk County, we should keep in touch with that technical information. How do you determine regional significance? Which project? Is it, of course, the Ronkonkoma Hub? Is
Well, that was listed, yeah.
Yes. But I think it's significant. I just am calling our attention to it.
We can certainly follow it.
We definitely need information on it because it cuts both ways. I mean, sometimes when DEC is good, they're very, very good, and when they're bad, they're terrible. And they don't. I mean, you can disagree with them a lot on a lot of their determinations, and sometimes they're very, very good.
But as Joy said, they
There's
have
nobody
lost
there.
200 personnel
Yes.
in the last 2 years.
In June, on the DEC update that's presented to conservation commissions and environmental quality commissions, I will ask that question. But well, I think we should follow it.
Well, it wasn't clear. I was going to actually ask about it because it sounded like it wasn't something that's been decided yet. That this
No, it looks like the governor's office is looking into it, but
and would it require legislative action on the state,
that I don't know.
or is it an administrative change that they could make?
It's an administrative change. When you change the seeker regs at state level, Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's an administrative action. The ledge doesn't count.
The legislature changed it last time.
When houses went from whatever you wanted them to be to type 2, so the ledge decided that? I thought it was an administrative along with a court decision.
What is the movement towards
There may have been a court
the state
decision, but-
declaring lead agency?
Yes.
Yeah. What it boils down, economic development is
That's
everything,
the
as we're
thing.
seeing. And
even if they don't even really need to change the law for that,
Yes.
because they can exert their lead agency status over a
That's
local
right, but
municipality.
So they want to
never do.
avoid the
They never do, but if
They
this is a
don't
policy
want to.
decision now,
And part of the problem with the state, in my experience, no matter how big the project is in a local municipality or a county, okay, when they look at it on a statewide basis, it's insignificant.
Yeah.
So it's an egg deck. Whereas to us guys, or to the local municipality, it may be very significant.
it's like when houses went from whatever you wanted them to be type 1, sometimes to unlisted other times, to an automatic type 2. Well, on a state level, a house is, you look at it in a macro sense, a house is a neg deck. You look at it at our level, you're sticking it into a wetland, which DEC sometimes will allow. My God, now they're saying it's type 2 and you can't fight it.
But typically these, what they're considering regionally significant projects, tend to be type 1 actions where they would have to coordinate the state would normally be one of the agencies.
And they could exert their lead agency status if they want to. But they don't.
They don't, but it sounds like now they're looking to
Well,
change
if they're doing
that
it within the
status.
regs, that's one thing. But, for example, around Concoma Hub, where you have two towns coming together, that might be an idea where you have an overarching agency coming in and saying, okay, we're going to do the coordination. You guys, you two towns are part of the review process. We're not going to go forward without you. But basically, to eliminate problems. And that jurisdiction exists right now.
Yeah, but as I said a moment ago, you got to watch out for them because they will turn around and say, no matter how significant this project is to the area that it's happening in, on a statewide basis, it's insignificant.
There's no question the whole point of the move is to reduce NIMBY.
Right.
You know,
The
like
volume-
to
the
make
volume of
things
that
go
voice?
faster that they
But-
want to see happen.
But sometimes NIMBY is good. You have to look
Yeah,
at
well,
it both ways.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying that from the state's perspective, they don't want all of what we do. They want these bigger projects to move.
Also, that's what's happening here at the county with economic development. Suddenly that's taking over as in an overarching way. It's reduced planning in certain ways to a subsidiary agency, and the focus is upon economic development, and that may change the county's attitude to something. These things cut both ways is what it boils down to. And there's not, in my opinion, there's not going to be any rationality to the decisions. They're going to jump all over the place.
Speaking of that, Mike brought up before we actually started the meeting that the county is now considering giving us only 1 week to review materials as opposed to the...
We've been asked to tighten up our time frame. Typically, project submissions would be due to our office 2 weeks before the meeting. Christine and I would compile it, put the agenda together, usually get it out by that following Monday. We've been asked if we can extend that deadline to 1 week before the meeting because of projects like the Annexco thing where they're working up to the last minute and things are time sensitive and they don't always have the 2 week lead time for a critical project. What's that?
Well, we have schedules too.
Absolutely.
And, forgetting the volunteer aspects, there are other things on our plates. And I think that we should not... You said we were asked if we could do it. I would say that no. I can't speak for the chair, but
As of right
my
now-
recommendation is that we say no. We need time for deliberation, and that they have to respect our time and our need to do due process. And
I second that.
How does everyone else feel about this issue with the time constraints?
No, I think it's absurd to push us to
Can we
such
have?
limitations.
Is there a way to have a 1 or 2 project backdoor?
Like a late starter.
We've
type
done that in the
process.
past. We've accommodated all the time. I don't think it should become policy, but
If there's some heads up about it, then yeah.
I mean, we could do that, keep it as, or we could propose this, keep it as it is, and if there was a project like the Annexco thing,
Let
we
us
try
know.
to accommodate whenever possible. Now we're starting to put everything online and email it out to you guys, so when we do get it, we can get it to you immediately, instead of waiting for the mail.
that I think is a better way
That's
of handling.
helpful. So how does everybody feel about that change in direction
'Cause it
now that we're
doesn't seem
emailing
to-
everything? Is everyone okay with that?
I thought it was very nice and orderly and neat. I don't know. It was very helpful. And I think the audio thing is very interesting. I wouldn't want to listen to all of us again, but I think it's very interesting. How did you implement it? It seemed, has it been implemented a long time and I didn't notice it?
How long have we been doing
Probably
that?
since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Just a few months.
I don't see why we can't keep things the way they are now. And when something
And
special
accommodate when we
comes
need
up,
to.
you don't even have to give it to us as a late starter at the meeting. You can email it to us.
Right.
If it's 1 or 2 items, so what?
Right.
If I get it a day or two
No,
before,
no.
it's
Yeah.
certainly doable.
Larry?
With regard to some of the projects, certainly not all of them, certainly not the agenda. I don't object to getting that on the email. But a lot of the things have drawings.
Right, the maps don't come out.
Which we want the large scale so that we can actually see what's occurring, and not something that shows up in an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper.
What we're doing, we're going to keep that as it is for the CEQ members, and go electronic for everybody else in town, the legislature, when we send out our material. But that's not going to change for you guys. You'll also get it through email, and it'll be posted on the CEQ website. But you'll still be getting the packets hard copy.
CEQ has a website?
Well, the plan
It's called computer. By the way, are we going to get them in color still? I know there was discussion about that.
Scanner's not color.
There is a color scanner in the back. We don't have access to it, but they can run things off. I haven't gotten a real good answer on that. I'd say yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see
that
some
map,
things in
the
black.
map, like, for example, the map we were looking at
acquisition.
today,
The
black
only-
and white was
Right.
useless.
The only reason that was black and white is that came to the CEQ before it was tabled because we were waiting on the Type 2. We ran out of color copies.
But won't they
And-
provide you with the digital image, and then you can just email us that anyway?
So you don't have to scan it in.
Well,
as a
from now
color
on, we're
scanner.
asking all submittals
Digital.
in digital
Okay.
format.
There you
So
go.
we will be able to do that.
Do you
I just have to remember what
you
it
have
was.
to email to us?
You don't have to, but
Email the link to where it is all that. I mean,
we could email you the link to the website.
does anybody object to that? To not getting the 11 meg scan thing to your email, instead getting a thing that says
Link.
The link
Yes,
to the
the link
website?
to the
A link is a better
I'm
idea.
fine with that.
That's fine.
environment.
Yeah,
Well, you
fine.
generally can't email more than about, what,
Yeah,
2
sometimes
meg at a
the files
time?
are-
Yeah, I'm
Right,
generally
right.
pretty close to the ceiling,
Well, I
so when
think
something
that's
comes
why-
in, the rest of the day is shot. I can't get
I
stuff.
got 3 or 4 from
Got that?
her.
Yeah.
You need another website. It came through the county.
Well, that was the other thing.
like-
The email that I got from Christine with the agenda and then all the report, I got the first page of everything, and then everything else was just like a blur. Pages and pages and
Oh,
pages and
mine was
pages.
clear. I could read mine.
You can read
Yes.
it?
Maybe
I
you
got
just
it.
made an update
Rich,
to
you
your
got to put
Adobe.
your glasses on.
I think your glasses. Did your glasses ship?
No, honestly, I can even email it back to you. It was unreadable.
No, mine was fine.
Maybe
read all
an
of
update to your Adobe? I don't know. I don't know why that would
But
be.
then again, if we just go and have it all put on the
But everything
website,
will
and
be-
Christine emails us just the link, we just click on that link and off we go, it should be fine, and nobody should have trouble opening it or viewing and reading it.
Yeah, that's...
You know, Gloria, it just might have been me, but in one of Christine's transmittal referred to a link, and I opened the link, and what was supposed to be there wasn't there, or...
I found that too.
I
Yes,
had that happen
I
too.
did, yes.
But she sent it 2 times.
Yeah, she sent it 2
Right.
times.
She
So
sent
I'm
it
just, I think maybe there was just a little error there, so.
Well, yeah, you practice on whether you're sending the link to the folder or the link to a document in the folder.
Yes.
Because it'll express differently when you try to open it.
Yeah.
One,
We're gonna
one
send the
puts you
link-
in an area, and the other one opens
you
the
right to
file
it.
for you.
No,
You don't
we
even know
wanna-
what
We
area.
want to
Link
go
to
right
the
to it.
page.
Yes.
The page or the actual
Either way you
document?
want is fine, but just have
Yeah, I'm
it.
looking
I
for something
prefer the
that says
actual
April
document,
something
because
meeting,
you can
and
you're right
it's
there.
not
You
there.
have to search through it if you're looking at a web page that says this is this, and then go find it. Because I was trying to do that on that one. I was like,
Yeah.
well, where is it? I don't see it now, and I'm going. So I closed it. So I'd rather go right directly to the document.
Okay. I also just want to point out that we got the updated CEQ bylaws in your
Yes, I
folder.
saw
Yes.
that.
And you want to
And-
go over it next meeting?
No, not this one. This took into account everyone's comments
Oh,
at the
this
last
is
meeting.
the-
The next meeting
You were
applies
also going to update the
EAFs based on the new updated state forms.
Next meeting?
I'll send it out to you guys before the next meeting. We'll discuss it at next meeting.
So we're going to discuss this next meeting?
No, that's done.
That's done.
We discussed that already. The
I
EAFs.
formulated some questions that I think should be on there myself.
Sure.
In terms of economic and social issues. Like, for instance, does this project foster tourism? You know, and so on and so forth. I would like to suggest, should I send them to you or should I suggest them at the meeting?
Do both. email me what you got, and then we'll bring it up for
All right,
discussion.
I mean,
at
if
the
they're
meeting.
irrelevant, or if nobody wants to do them, that's fine with me also, but.
Oh, no, bring them up, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. That's the point of
I
the
think these are
discussion.
important issues as well.
Absolutely.
If we're open to EAF adjustments, I might not be able to make the next meeting. I would want to see if we have enough text on the solid waste disposal. It's in part 116 and part 218. It says there's a solid waste, and someone can interpret that as none. But that project has a huge solid waste component. So the time frame of like solid waste as of when they cut the ribbon, or solid waste as of eventual disposition.
The full life cycle of the whole
I don't know how you
project.
change it, but that might be worth talking about.
We'll send you out another copy of the updated EAFs, and then if you can't make the meeting, if you want to just email me comments
I don't know
or
how to
give me a
fix it,
call.
but that's something that we might
You
want to try
almost
to.
put it into a contract sometimes with whoever you're dealing with that they have to remove at the end.
But if it's not in the EAF, we don't have to think about it. We might want to, but it's kind of out of bounds until we put it in bounds. The longer term life cycle consequence of recyclability or whatever.
Okay.
That's
Oh, yeah,
it?
I got to talk about that.
Oh, you want it to go longer?
Mike, you want to talk about what?
Yeah, very quickly, I was at a meeting of the vector control people just recently, and no one knows what the bug populations are going to be this summer because of the droughts, etc. But there may be a big threat out there with the Asian tiger mosquito, and it could be pretty bad, and nobody knows really how to fight it, and the chemicals are not yet approved for use as of, I think, 2 weeks ago. So nobody knows what's going to happen, and the entire ball game can change on this depending upon the level of infestation. When they had some infestations last year in hop hog, they didn't know what to do because the bloody things breed everywhere. From a can to a tire on down, not just in the wetlands the way a lot of the normal bugs do around here. So all bets may be off. The plan as it exists right now has enough flexibility built into it to deal with these types of emerging threats, but nobody knows what's going to be happening, and DEC hasn't, as I said, hasn't approved certain of the chemical formulations, and they're still playing around with reformulations.
Okay, Paul.
So nobody knows. It's all up in the air.
Okay, I'm still in my meeting.
Question for Mike. When a department, like the health department, is reviewing and going to approve or disapprove a project, a private project,
I got it right. Bye-bye.
how do they do secret? Where do they do secret? Do they send it here for an
If they
recommendation?
have, only the projects that come here are typically the legislature and county executive, but the county as a whole has the approval disapproval authority. Parks seems to be the only department that uses this body as a sounding board for recommendations on their internal secret process.
Because it's been my experience working for the town for 30 years that when it came to doing SECRA, the Oak County Health Department always waited till the town gave it an egg deck, and they just...
rode their coattails.
That was it. It's an egg deck. They really didn't review the project for the things that they have the jurisdiction for.
There is a county SOP for all the different instances. When the county's lead agency, when the county's an involved agency, when a initiating unit within the county is the lead agency, not the county as a whole. They're supposed to be following the procedures set forth in the SOP.
I'll tell you why I'm asking. There's an organization that's been trying to build in the town of Huntington since the mid-1970s. And rather than build, they'd rather sue. They're very litigious. And they've sued any number of times. And most recently, they've gone to the county health department and asked for 2 or 3 variances for sewage treatment. Okay. There's no sewage treatment plants in the area. They want to have 2 or 3 sewage treatment plants on the grounds of their project. And they were interviewed in the local newspaper, the Long Islander, in the article, and I happened to be talking to somebody about this. and they said that if the county does not approve their variances, they were going to sue the county health department for discrimination. Now that is always their. You're laughing, but the town of Huntington went through 25 years of lawsuits with these people, and they finally got what they wanted. And they never made an application to the town. Okay?
Wow.
And the lawsuits were always discrimination.
1983s?
Every time you came to a certain point in the lawsuit, we think we'd have it settled, and that's aside from it. And I'm just wondering, the weak point with the county health department, as far as I'm concerned, is secret. And there is a whole new group of people, when you talk about NIMBYs, there's a whole new group of people out there that are gearing up for something that, not in favor of their project, but against their project. And if they bring a lawsuit and the other guys bring a lawsuit, we could all be, they're not going to build anything, I'm sure. This is all going to be figured out in the courts. But I think it could end up being a very lengthy process and a very costly process for everybody.
The problem is, the health department doesn't administer seeker.
Yeah.
And when it's a private, they do and they don't, not formally, in a formal sense. When you've got a private applicant coming in, okay, they're applying to health department, at least to my understanding, for a permit that is within the ambit of authority of the health department. And that's about as far, the health department is supposed to maybe look at seeker and judge it against that, but I don't think they ever make full findings.
There was an impact statement. There was an impact statement, and every agency, pursuant to secret, every agency that has an approval in the process has to make a finding pursuant to the impact statement. Now, the impact statement, I know, merely said that there will be sewage treatment plants. Okay, it didn't go into detail or the kind of review that the health department can really hang their hat on. You know what I mean? And I'm just, because they could ask for a supplemental to just address the sewage part. Okay? And I don't know.
It's just, again, this is usually town-based, even though the county has a portion of it. This is why I'm saying that the county generally doesn't play with seeker on private properties.
But the county health department will give it a neg deck and then issue their permit based on the town's review.
To some degree, yeah.
And the plant capacity will be to be determined.
Right.
That's the given.
And then the fact that they need variances.
Where in Huntington is this project? I'm just curious.
It's on the corner of Elwood Road.
Oh, no, not that.
That's been going on for years.
Yeah, Rich, I know that property, and that's been a discrimination thing because it's supposed to be middle income, if we, shall we say, housing. And yeah, it's a black and white issue, literally. It's focused on that because of the discrimination.
It's the group that's doing it. They asked me to be on their board of directors.
South Huntington?
No.
No.
No, it's North.
Yeah, it's they want to bring in middle class housing into an area that doesn't want to see it.
Yeah.
And to put it very, very bluntly, the people in the area are very NIMBY-ish, and my God, people of slightly different coloration might be moving in there. That's really what it boils down to. God forbid.
But if the county health department doesn't do everything, dot all their I's and cross all their T's,
they could leave themselves vulnerable.
They could leave themselves very vulnerable.
I was at a couple of meetings that Mr. Ballone was talking about. I know he's got other problems, but he was talking about the county health department and it being on his radar to quickly
expedite reviews.
Yes.
The trouble is, the more you implement secret, the longer things are gonna take.
Yeah. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion.
To close. Second? Second. All in favor? Motion passed.